going on, everyone? Zion Williamson was one of the most hyped players ever in history. I mean, he was the most hyped since LeBron James. He had a ridiculous social media following. He was a human highlight reel. He was a man amongst boys in high school. He was must-see TV. People were literally paying to go watch his high school performance. And they were even having to change venues to fill butts and seats because he was so hyped and anticipated. And so many people wanted to watch him play. Fast forward to college, and the big question was, would he live up to the hype? He was a man amongst boys, but now he's playing with other people with his skill set, people that are top prospects, most likely headed to the NBA. He's playing against people that are much more suited for his size and skill level, right? Well, guess what? He still was the face of college. He still took over. He was still a dominant force, and many people were like, this is the Zion that we thought he would be. So, of course, what happens? He's the number one pick in the draft. And fast forward to him being in the NBA, and what did we see? We see him get injured, and he misses the first year. And it's like, oh, man. But there were many players that went through the same thing. I mean, look at Embiid. Look at players like Blake Griffin is another wonderful example of a player that was super hyped up, sat out a year, came back, and was dominant. Embiid, same thing. Embiid is having an MVP campaign at the moment. Zion had the hype still behind him, and that momentum just sort of built leading into his actual rookie campaign. And he put on a show. He was everything and more that people wanted to see. He was the face of the franchise. He was the guy that they were going to build around, especially after New Orleans traded Anthony Davis away to the Lakers. Zion and the young prospects that they got from the Lakers were going to be the ones that would push New Orleans to the top eventually. Zion would eventually become the face of the league, would be this dominant player, and his rookie campaign showed that promise, right? He averaged 27 a game on 60+% shooting. I mean, you're talking historic numbers for a rookie, and there have been many players throughout history that have been extremely hyped leading to the league and were supposed to do this dominant, introduction impact their rookie year and just didn't. But Zion did. Zion was that player that everyone assumed he would be. But guess what happened? He gets injured again. So now the big question is Zion a bust? Because many people are comparing him to players like Greg Oden, another guy that was super hyped, that was fantastic when he played. But the problem was injuries really took effect. And Zion's size is a big issue, right? Zion's having foot issues, which is a big problem and is very likely to have another surgery. So the big question is, with his size and the weight he's put on and the way he plays the game, would he be able to come back and be that star that he was, that we saw, that raw talent? Because Zion wasn't a player that was on his skill set, that was just, this just fundamentally sound player. No, he was playing on pure raw talent. But even that was just so much better than most players, especially his size. He was a mismatch nightmare. And it was just on his pure raw talent. He was big, he was bulky, he was strong, he had crazy athleticism. I mean, he could jump through the building. And that's what really gave him the advantage. That's what really gave him the edge. The problem is he's already having injuries that are extremely significant for any player, let alone a player his size. And I don't want to classify Zion at this time as a bust because that's a big label. And Nick Wright said an excellent point. I don't classify people as a bust based on injuries, which is something that I think we really need to take into account. Like somebody like Greg Oden, he showed that he had the potential to be one of the best bigs in the league. The problem was that he just couldn't stay healthy. So does that make him a bust? Because he was a proper draft pick. I mean, Zion was the proper draft pick. There are many teams that would draft Zion, even with the injury history that he has right now, would still probably draft him number one just because his pure talent and the potential of what he can become. And we've seen it. We've seen players, again, Joel Embiid, Blake Griffin, players that got injured, that had significant injuries, but were able to turn it around. And if Zion can turn it around, given how young he is, I mean, he's still a kid. If he can really turn it around, stay healthy, I really think that he could still develop into that promising player that many people expect him to be. He is just this explosive giant in so many ways and just so dominant when he's on the court. And like I said, he hasn't even developed the sound game that many bigs eventually develop in the league. Once he develops that, he's going to be a monster. He's going to be far and ahead better than he is even today, which is a scary thought. I mean, he has potential to be one of the best players in the league and maybe a potential Hall of Famer. It just depends on if he can get healthy. And I just think it's too early in his career, and it's too early based on his injuries to really classify him in any way. What we've seen is greatness, but you could be the greatest person ever at your job, but if you never show up, it's irrelevant, right? You'd rather have somebody that's there, somebody that's playing, somebody that's filling that hole. And I don't want to say Zion's not going to be that player that is there. I mean, lots of top players in this league miss 20 plus games every season, and then they're still considered and classified top 5, top 10 in the league, top 15, whatever you want to classify. I mean, look at Kawhi Leonard. Many people put him top 5, but that guy hasn't played a full season ever in his career. So, I mean, you can't really say like somebody sitting, somebody getting little injuries, things like that, but it's the significance of the injuries that Zion is experiencing that really has me worried. And until he can actually get right and get his body together and get in a position to where he can get past those injuries, it's a big question mark at this time. I don't want to label him as a bust because, one, like I said, injuries aren't a factor. And if he never got injured, I really think we'd be talking about him as one of the best players in the league. And New Orleans might be in a different spot, especially with the acquisition of McCollum. I think that is a huge one. And if they can all get healthy, I think the Pelicans have the potential to be pretty scary. I don't know if they'd be contenders, but there definitely could be a team that would surprise a lot of people. I mean, especially if Zion can continue the performance and dominance that he displayed when he was playing. Now, can he get back to that? And can he get back to getting over those injuries and that hump is really what the question is. He's very likely going to sign the extension now with the Pelicans. The big question was, would he be the first rookie to turn down the extension to go be a free agent? Because he's been linked to, New York and he doesn't want to be in New Orleans, but now he's kind of obligated, right? I think the Knicks would still take a chance on him and would still sign him, but there's just so much risk. And at this point, you might as well just sign that contract and see what happens because you don't know what you're going to be when you come back. You don't know if you could be healthy. And many star players have been out of the league very quickly and very too soon because of injuries. And Zion could be that player that was hyped beyond belief and ended up coming in the league, showed his dominance and got injured. And now it's a big problem. But the thing that is in his favor, the thing that is something that we have today that we didn't have, even Greg Oden's days, was the technology and the medicine and health and doctors and so on and so forth. We are so far advanced now compared to even back then that Zion very likely can be in a position to be successful. The big concern is his size. If he was a guard, something along those lines, yes, it's still a significant injury. Don't get me wrong. But he doesn't have the weight and the bearing that he's putting on his foot, on his knees. I mean, that's why most big men get knee issues, things like that. He doesn't, because he has all that size, all that weight on him. He's a muscular guy to begin with, and then he's added weight to it, so that's not helping. And he's having all these setbacks and stuff now, which is very likely due to the added weight that he gained. And so he needs to get himself right, and if he can do that, and he can get with the proper medicine and the proper surgeons and get himself together, I really think that he can continue to be a dominant force in this league. I mean, look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant had a injury that basically was the end of people's careers, right? I mean, even Kobe Bryant wasn't the same when he came back. Well, Kevin Durant came back and he is just as good as he was when he left before the injury. And the difference is technology, is advancements, is medicine. It's also Kevin Durant's skill set. That also helps a lot too. He's not banging down low with the trees like Zion is. So that is something that is a big comparison. But as always, I pass the question on to you. What are your thoughts? Do you classify Zion as a bust yet? Is it more so wait and see? Do you even think that Zion could be a bust If it's due to injuries, do you think that, like, what do you classify as a bust? Because to me, a bust is somebody that had the promise of, say, Zion. He comes in the league and he averages, 8 a game or something like that. An Anthony Bennett type player, #1 pick. Many people thought he was going to be a 2010 guy. Turns out that he's an 8-4 guy. That to me is a bust. That is somebody that was drafted far too ahead of themselves and had all this promise in the world and just didn't deliver. Zion delivered on the promise. So the issue is his health. So I don't really know if you could classify that as a bust, but as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, follow by the bell notifications. Stay up to date with all things sports. I'll see you all in the next one.